Who are you?
Someone's trying not to kill you.
Hey guys, Nick here, and welcome to part 25 of What If Dale Survived the Remake. Now, last episode, we covered the cannibals being dealt with by Rick and Morgan alone, and Abraham dying and giving way to the Eugene lying about Washington thing, along with Daryl touching in with the group that went after Noah, and the revelation of Dale, Carol, and Beth all being alive. Now for this episode, we're cutting to Glenn's group going back to the hospital and how this came to be in a two-part flashback just like before, because this is the flashback era. So for this episode and the next, grab a snack and a drink, because this is a lot to dive into for two parts of a flashback once again. And with that, before we get into that, did you guys know that myself and physicists believe that there are two alternate dimensions? One in which you subscribe to Nick's Topics YouTube channel, and one in which you, for some reason, don't. Now, for these two, it's a little more closer to home in terms of, child-friendly, rather than all those dark scenarios and everything else. If you don't subscribe to Nick's Topics, Plankton will get his hands on the Krabby Patty secret formula. Yeah, that's right. This isn't going to be a fake out like every episode, or like the SpongeBob movie where they went to Shell City and Plankton got the formula and then at the last minute of the movie got it taken. No. He's getting it for real. But if you do subscribe, you will be able to breathe underwater and be able to meet SpongeBob SquarePants himself and literally do anything under the sea that you would want to do with him and just basically have the time of your life down in Bikini Bottom. So, if I were a betting man, I would definitely choose the option to spend my time with SpongeBob and anyone that I'd like down there. Preferably Plankton is not, bad character, and getting the formula would be pretty freaking cool because he's a cool character. But in all terms of villain and hero style, I'd rather spend my time with SpongeBob than let Plankton get his hands on the formula. So hit that subscribe button so we don't have to have that happen. With that, let's get into this long episode, and you guys better pack yourselves in because we're in for a heck of a ride with these two next parts. Now we get the Glenn and Maggie's group along with Mitch, Tara, and Megan going to the hospital to find out what happened to Noah, because remember, they didn't see him come back. So, what could have happened to him? And once they get there, Glenn still tells everybody to be on their guard, because Mitch, Tara, and Megan especially, they didn't know what happened, so they're new to this. So, Glenn and Maggie basically say to be on their guard, because either Noah's still working with them, or something bad happened to him. So, they gotta be on all eyes and ears for this. And then, Glenn hears something, and tells everybody to arm their guns, and get ready to shoot on sight, in case it's an enemy. But, when they turn the corner to see who was there, it's Noah. He's perfectly fine. He doesn't have a gun out, he's not threatening them, and he doesn't seem menacing. He seems perfectly in one piece. Glenn would then ask, after a second of realizing this, "Hey, Noah, what happened to you? Tyrese saw that you didn't come back with us. Did you get lost, or did something happen here, or did they force you back?" After that, Noah said that nothing happened to him, and it's not like he didn't mean to come back. It's just that something, or someone rather, caught his attention. And he then smiles very, very happily, saying that this very certain someone is someone that they definitely would like to see. And he calls out for the person and says, "Hey, your old friends are here, bro. Time to come out." And after that, Noah steps aside, and a dark figure exits out of the entrance. It's kind of weird to say. It's Dale. In one piece. Dale is alive. and smiles at the fact that Glenn and Maggie are alive, along with some new people. Because he hasn't seen Rick or anybody yet. Remember, he was just with that small group that went back to Rick. He doesn't know about too much else yet. So, after seeing Dale alive, Glenn and Maggie break down into tears. Because they thought that he was dead. And especially Michonne, what does that say about her? This just opened a whole new playing field. Dale smiles at seeing them and everything, and they're crying and everything, and definitely is, like, happy to see him, but also is like, hey guys, why are you so sad? Aren't you happy to see your old friend Dale back? Especially looking at Glenn, because we all know how much Glenn looked up to Dale. Come on, I've spoken about it since part 1. But Glenn then would just go all happy and freaking sad like and run in for a hug saying how happy he is that Dale is alive. But Dale tells him that he can't really do that and Glenn shouldn't get too close. And this would be a really fast change, mind you. Glenn would be like, confusingly then, why? Why can't you give me a hug, bro? And he's like, this would be like happy and like jokative. He doesn't know if Dale's playing with him. But Dale says it's not that he doesn't, of course, want to hug him. He loves the crap out of Glenn. And he would definitely like it. But if they were going to hug, they need to be like extra careful. Because just because he's here and alive doesn't mean that it came without a cost. Something had to happen to him, and that's why Noah returned. It was him, and stuff had to happen for him to live. And then he reveals his other arm, replaced by a wired-up shotgun. And this is the entrance into Dale's shotgun arm. Now, of course, the video would not be this long, and there wouldn't be a two-parter flashback without explaining how this happens. So we're going to get that here in a second. But yeah, this is finally where his shotgun arm plays into effect. You know, Glenn and Maggie, of course, they're not going to be like, oh, cool weapon and everything. Not at least yet. They're more like scared because how did this happen? And Glenn is the first one to really speak up about this and is like, Dale, how could this have happened to you? What happened to your arm? And why is it replaced with a shotgun? And with wires? And to top that all off, how did you survive? You weren't moving, and then Michonne came and she went down. Dawn died. It's so much to take in. How could you have possibly survived? We didn't see you move. And does that mean that Michonne might be alive too? Dale says, unfortunately, no. Before he blacked out, he indeed was very near death, but he wasn't shot fatally. He was very near injured, just like everybody else was, especially Michonne. But Michonne, she definitely died. But him, there's more to what happened to him than meets the eye. Whenever Dawn had shot at Michonne's direction, Dale had pushed her out of the way and got shot in the back. But remember, he just said, and I stated very specifically, and probably spoiled way too much on the fact, he was not killed here, but he was very much near so death, especially because he's an old man. The last thing he saw before he blacked out was Michonne rush forward, she went down, Daryl shot, and then everything went dark. He didn't even see Dawn go down. Next thing he knows when he wakes up, he's in a hospital room, looking up at a ceiling, and Dr. Stephen Edwards enters the room, or I at least think would be in said room, and would greet him upon his awakening. Dale would be in a very, very big state of confusion and like, what happened? Where am I? And he wouldn't have remembered anything because he once again was very, 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 very near death already. And even more so, he was lucky to not die. And Dr. Stephen would say, "You're still in Grady Memorial Hospital. We had to pull a lot of strings to save your life. As a matter of fact, were it not for a very specific someone, we would not have noticed you come out of whatever kind of state you were in at all. You were so close to death that if he were not to have saved you, you would have died alongside your lady friend with the katana." Well, because she had her back still to the katana, you know? And it was revealed, Noah. Dale is so surprised by this that he actually bolts up a little, but he doesn't really have the strength to, like, bounce up. He more or less is more awake at this point, and is like, "Noah? But I thought that you left with everybody else." I mean, he's not going to remember everything that happened. Once again, he blacked out, and he doesn't know if everybody's still here, what happened to Dawn, anything. And he wants to know what happened. Noah would then fill Dale in on everything that happened, and Michonne is sadly dead. And everybody thought that he was dead too. So they all left. And they also left to reunite with hopefully more survivors. But that isn't known whether to Dale or Noah yet if there were more survivors. Noah just heard speculation. But he saw Dale move, and some officers were looking at him. So he knew he couldn't just leave him, because all the group cared about him. And Dale is very touched by this, thinking that he was so close to dying, and this boy saved him. He has been literally spared from death twice. Once on account of Daryl's quick thinking, and another by Noah's quick thinking. But Noah said, however, just because he is alive doesn't mean that there wasn't a cost. And this would be reiterating words from Noah saying this to Dale saying it to Glenn. So we've seen this plenty of times in The Walking Dead. And Dale says, "What kind of cost?" But then he gets that same feeling that Michonne felt when they awoke at Woodbury. He looks down, and his arm is no longer there. His right arm is completely gone. And all that's left is a stump, or rather, just a small stump. His arm is basically whole arm, except like almost near his shoulders, completely gone. So you could call this a comic reversal, except in that he lost both of his legs because he took Herschel's story, and he lost his other leg and got bit. So this is more or less a Bob reveal, because Bob didn't lose his leg in this story. So it's more or less kind of like that, if you want to think about it that way. Amanda would then walk in and say that she's glad that Dale awoke, and thanks him and everyone who was here for saving them ultimately from Dawn and everything, and is glad to see that he's awakened. And it took a lot to get him to even survive. He was very lucky. Dale says now, where is everybody else? Like, he wants to know more, because he's still not all there. Because I don't need to explain much more on Dale's health at this point. Amanda would then say that everybody left because, like Noah even said, Michonne died, Dawn died. Everyone thought that Dale was dead too. There was no reason to stay. And they said something about hopefully finding more survivors. But for all of them know, they could just be out there gone and just out in our part of the world. But Noah was supposed to go with them and didn't. So who knows? They might come back. But she says that he can't worry about that right now and needs to focus on recovery. And if he needs anything, they'll be there for him. And Dale says very hearty thank you for this. And after that, everyone proceeds to leave, and Dale proceeds to just drift off to sleep, because he is definitely in no way, shape, or form able to get up at this point. And as he dreams, all he sees is blurry visions, nightmares, ruin, chaos, and darkness. He dreams of everyone that he was around, but not of them being happy, because at this point, Dale's mind has started to fade to seeing utter chaos. He dreams of Amy, back at the Atlanta camp, who was bitten and was the first victim among them, and sadly, broke Andrea and was the first person that Dale could not save. It broke Andrea so much that Dale then dreams of her, and almost failing to rescue her from the CDC, and how that could have been the end for both of them, but ultimately would have meant that their journey like this would have never happened. And then he dreams of Shane, who he saw that day in the Atlanta camp, almost on the point of killing Rick, and what could have happened. And then of Shane going out to him in the middle of the woods in a very reminiscent scene of that Atlanta camp, but this time it was Dale holding the gun, stopping Shane from becoming the monster that he was starting to devolve into. But then again, that very same monster realized, told the group off so much that Sophia was gone, and to see her in that barn, and how much it meant for the group, how much it broke them. And then Shane ultimately falling to the darkness and monster he was, so much so that he almost killed Rick, and Dale was threatened too, and how he still couldn't bring himself to kill another man, and how Rick ultimately had to be the one to put him down. And then the final thing he dreams is the governor, how much more of a monster he was, what it meant for the person that he cared most about in the entire world, Andrea, and how they all saw her walk out of there as a walker, and how he witnessed her death firsthand. And then he wakes up. After waking up, he can't believe what has become of the world, what he's been around. He has preached so much about goodness, so much about light, so much about humanity, and yet ever since Herschel's farm, ever since the Atlanta camp, he has been around nothing but darkness. And it's not him losing his humanity, no. It's just him losing faith in the people who have let the world around them dictate who they are, and how much it disappoints him that people he's loved, most of them had not only submitted to said darkness, but the people that he cared about had died as a result of it. And with this very set motion in mind, and with all of the dreams and nightmares he had to witness, he now knows what he must do and what he's going to do for his future, if he's actually going to remain alive. He sees his shotgun nestled in the back of the room, and this ultimately spites the big ultimate plan for Dale to not only keep his humanity, but to ensure that he never falls or no one else falls again. Now, a few minutes later, Stephen Edwards enters the room upon Dale's request and asks, "Hey, are you alright? You definitely seem a lot more awake than before. What could be the problem?" Dale says that there is no problem, but he has a question or demand of sorts for Dr. Stevens. He wishes for whatever part of his remaining arm, or remaining part of his right arm, to be removed and replaced with a wired shotgun for his arm. And this almost completely comes out of nowhere, because seconds ago, Dale looked like he was, like, toast. He was so far dead that it seemed logical for him to be out of it, but now this? Stephen Edwards just thinks that he's hallucinating and that he's gone crazy. And is like, are you okay? Because even if you're telling the truth, to be able to do that, you would almost... And Dale cuts him off almost instantly, yelling at him, actually, saying that, I am fully awake and aware of what I am saying to you, Doctor, and I want it done. And Dr. Stevens, this would take him completely off guard and would be the real first moment that Dale, besides against the governor, was assertive and, like, actually assertive, or even yelled out for that matter. But Dale, the reason he's doing this is because he's been through so much. And he's actually serious. And we would barely have ever seen Dale like this, and then would explain why he wants this. All this time, throughout the apocalypse, he's been preaching for people to keep their humanity. And he has just seen people fall to this world and what it's become too many times. He and several other people, his friend Michonne being one of them, have fallen to one single man, and that is a pure, clear-cut example. And if he's going to survive and meet up with the people he loves, and including if there's more survivors, he wants this done. Not only to keep his humanity, but as a way to protect himself fully and completely, so that he never falls again. Or at least if he does fall, it will mean that he will be doing something that actually means something for the greater good, so that he can make people understand that just because the world's dark doesn't mean they have to be. It's the symbolism of what he believes, along with what is needed to be in this world, if you guys get what I mean. And Stephen Edwards, he definitely thinks that that makes sense. But with how Dale has barely been able to survive, and is lucky to, really, this process, they're going to have to heavily sedate him. Otherwise, and even with this, he could very well die as a result of the procedure. And Dale understands this and says, if he dies doing something that he believes is right for him, then so be it. It'll be the last right thing he tried to do. And with that, Stephen Edwards doesn't say another dang word, and they begin the process. Dale is heavily sedated. And with this, Stephen Edwards and several others begin the procedure. They begin to get wires and cut into Dale's whatever part of his stump would be. And then they would begin to open up a hole, which they would attach in wires. And this would take a lot of work. I know it sounds like a little bit gruesome, which is why this channel isn't for kids, but I feel like it has to be for this detail. Amanda Shepard would then walk in and see what's going on, and would obviously, being the new leader after Dawn, know of the procedure and would see how it's going so far, also helping, and would say that even if he survives and gets this done, it's no guarantee that just having a shotgun hand is going to do it for him. And especially because he's done so much for them, and, you know, his people did too, their sacrifices and everything, they should do more for him than just the shotgun arm. And they should make sure that even if they use almost every material at their disposal, that they can either waste it all on him and him do it for the greater good, or they do all that and just go with him. Because after this, the hospital is next to nothing in terms of, like, the people and everything. This is almost like them spending everything on Dale. So Amanda almost thinks that even though that will be the end result, that it's worth it. So with that, they continue the procedure. The wires are circuitrated in to the remaining part of the stump, and now the complete shoulder, and then the shotgun is mounted on, but a part of the back is removed. Then the back and the wires are surgically put in to the arm. So, even though it would seem like the shotgun would be dangling, they are able to make it so that the shotgun is managed onto the stump, shoulder/arm thing, as you would call it, and they would use glue, metal tramps, and the shotgun's manifestation as a whole to make sure it stays. And the ammo would be circuitrated so that the ammo isn't just coming out of the shotgun, but the wires and the humans, we already possess electricity and like water and stuff in our bodies. So whenever Dale awakes, he is told of the entire process and that of what the shotgun has entailed. So the shotgun, I'll get to more on the specifics in a minute, but I get you guys can already get what I'm putting down for how it's working with Dale's shotgun as a whole. But once he wakes, he sees for himself the shotgun mounted onto his arm, and the work put into it was very extensive. And no one would have ever seen anything like this. And as for like real life stuff too, this would be a big upgrade, especially for an apocalypse. But hey, Aaron got a spiky arm, so why can't I do this? And after this, Dale thanks them all very, very thankfully and would be very happy that he survived for one thing and that they were able to complete the procedure and make it look, and they were able to do a good job as a whole. You know what I'm saying? And after this is where the procedure fully comes into account. Amanda says, "You're welcome," but there's things that they need to say about the particular, how they did it with the shotgun. Now, this is where I'm going to explain it in full, so pay attention. The human body we already have electricity and water in our systems. So, Amanda explains that the wiring and the shotgun, how they made it with the metal tramps and everything, they were able to lock it on so that the shotgun isn't dangling, and now it's a core unit that Dale can move around. But if he tries to tilt his arm upwards, then the shotgun will immediately go off as a chain reaction in his body because of the wires and the way that his muscle movement is controlling the shotgun. And the ammo and the wires are circuitrated in a way where if he shoots, it takes a life force out of him. Not so much that it hurts him, but it does wear him out. And if he were to use this over extensively, it could kill him if he uses it over a short amount of time. But if he uses it in very good boosts, the ammo that's circuitrated in there, which there's a lot because of a reward for him, he could die if it's overused. If that all made sense. I feel like I just went into a big, huge explanation there. God dang. But Dale says, if that's what it takes, it's what it takes. But he promises that he hopes that he will never have to use it over extensively, especially because he asked for this. And he wouldn't have asked for this if he didn't know what would happen next. So, after that, everything seems good until a few of the officers enter the room and talk to Amanda, saying that 5 people have just entered the outskirts of Grady Memorial. Amanda asks, well, who could they be? Thinking to herself, could they possibly? Before one of the officers butts in and says that the 5 people are as such. There's 2 men with hats, one of them being a bit younger, like an Asian kid, and then 2 women with a small little girl, that of which being Glenn, Maggie, Mitch, Megan, and Tara, who have all entered. They don't know if they're hostile or not, but some of them look familiar, and some of the officers think that they're people who were just here not that long ago. And Dale's like, oh, most definitely, they're talking about Glenn and everybody else. And he instantly perks up at this, now being much more fully recovered, because not only did the shotgun, it could have very well, they made it in a way that it did take a lot to sedate him and even keep him alive for the procedure, but it's made him more wide awake and like strung. You guys get what I'm saying? But Noah says that it should be a surprise for Dale to be alive to them, and that he will greet them first because they're most likely looking for him, and that he will call for him when the time is right. And with that, we end this part of Dale's shotgun flashback, but we're still in the flashback to how Dale, Carol, and Beth survived, where Dale ends his story about how he lived. And with that, part 1 of the flashback within flashbacks, that's a lot of flashbacks, like I said, we're around that part of the story, is over. Now, what will happen after this, and how does it tie into Carol and Beth surviving, and what will become of Dale with his new appendage? And that's where we leave things for the moment. I hope that you guys truly enjoyed this episode and understood the full detail of Dale and his shotgun. And I hope I definitely made it in a way that made sense, because I definitely think it made sense, even though I went way too much into it than I thought I would, especially whenever I made the production for it. But anyways, we're going to get into part 2 of the flashback next time, and then get back into the main story with like almost little to no flashbacks, possibly for the rest of the story. And that's a promise, yet I don't remember if it truly is. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.
Who are you? Come into the light.